Everyone get out!
Hello, tankers and tankettes. Welcome to Q&D number 4. I thought it was about time for another one of these. I think it's been about a month since the last one, and I'm kind of aiming to do these on a kind of roughly monthly basis. So I had a kind of an idea that I would just do, like, I would go a bit jingles. I would just answer one question, and instead I couldn't think of enough things to say about that one particular question. So we'll just do the normal format instead. So we're going to start off with a question about music from Golden Warlord, who asks, do I like metal? Yes, irony is my favourite. No, that joke though, that joke. That barely even qualifies, really, does it? I like all kinds of music. I'm not really a particular fan of metal as it goes. I like all kinds of things. Dubstep is not one of them either. Possibly many people will be relieved to hear. Other people disappointed. I like it. I like a good mix. I like my classical. I'm one of these people that music is actually. I know for some people music is actually quite an important thing in their lives, and that's not really the case for me. But when it comes to, if I had to pick out one particular genre or one particular originator, creator, it would have to be Johann Sebastian Bach, because just I don't know, the music of Bach just does things that really nothing else quite does somehow. And I don't know why it is, because like I said, music is not that kind of a thing in my life, but Bach is that one exception. So not really metal in any way, shape or form. Dario Goez asks, do I feel shadowed by Circon or Quickie Baby? Are they like following me? Is that? I mean, Caption guy kind of is. He's a bit weird though. We know about him. I'm guessing you mean overshadowed. It's YouTube, as in life. There is always someone who's bigger and better and more popular, and if you get into thinking of it as like a popularity contest, then that isn't really going to work out, because you're just going to go around with a massive inferiority complex all day, every day. So there's no point in really comparing yourself to other people. You just have to kind of do your own thing, and if it works, then it works, and if it doesn't work, then you try something different. And yeah, I don't think there's any point, but unless you know something that I don't, and you really did mean shadowed, and that they are actually following me, because that would be slightly, strange. Fallen Fan Fiction asks, well, he kind of asks, Nuns in a Bus, Richard Dawkins, would you happen to be an atheist? No! I'm a Jedi, obviously. I mean, come on, man, it's in the name. I mean, come on. MSSO asks, can I play the bagpipes? If you can't, can you move to the real Scotland and learn to do it? I'm in the real Scotland, damn it! Look! I know this is what the hostages do, with the kidnappers, but look, it's the Stornoway Gazette! I'm in the real Scotland, damn it! I'm in the real Scotland! No, I can't play the bagpipes, is the answer to that. Not that many people can in Scotland, strangely enough. It's not like every single person can play bagpipes. As odd as that may be. Everybody wears kilts, though, all the time. That stereotype is, of course, entirely true. But bagpipes, no. Next question, Joshua Brown asks, have I heard of performance-enhancing mods that people run on the NA server? I'm not quite sure what you're referring to exactly, and what are my thoughts on it. Do you mean things like the War Pack? Because there are certain mods that are. The thing is with the different servers, because they're run by different community teams. There's a kind of a definite banned mods list on NA, and EU hasn't done that, and other servers besides. They're kind of like there's no global, EU's got a very, very vague general, any mod that changes the information you get in the game or something like that. It's basically worded in such a way that it makes every mod illegal, and it's kind of like that's useful. But if it's I don't know, some mods are kind of close to the line, other mods are way over the line. I mean, if you do mean like the full-on War Pack, then yeah, I think that that's kind of like banned everywhere. But yeah, I don't know. You were a bit vague with that question, but that's the best answer I can give. Mo Kaiwell asks, I was wondering if you could mix two tanks together, not through breeding, but genetic manipulation and a lot of needles. Okay. Which tanks would you mix? Again, the Mouse, the AMX-40, and the KV-4 are all on the honeymoons. Damn it! I want a mouse-sized AMX-40. I want it to happen. Gah. I don't know. Something like if you could crossbreed like the Matilda and the STI, so you had like the massive armor of the STI, but like a really fast-firing pew gun, but with like suitable penetration for tier 9, that would be pretty funny. Oh, super best. This is a curtains question, you guys. Curtains. Wrong side. Curtains. Curtains. So professional. Yeah, middle of the day, by the way, and I think I mentioned this last time I closed the curtains because it was the middle of the day. Anyway, he says, curtains, light from the window. Ahem, welcome to Finland, where we do not have things like light or sunlight, just the dark side. Finland, yeah, well, you know, they beat the Soviet Union and Russia somehow, so dark side force powers, plausible, very plausible. Do I ever have any plans to visit Finland? Places like Parola, which is, you know, the Finnish Tank Museum. Also, how's the new PC doing? Well, that's a couple of questions. Well, Finland would be nice actually to visit someday, because I actually know someone from SGTA who is in Finland. And if he's representative of Finland generally, well, then I have some idea of how crazy you all are. But yeah, no, I would actually genuinely like to visit Finland someday. There's a couple of Scandinavian places generally. I think Denmark as well. Denmark and Finland in particular. Parola, obviously, if I was in Finland, I would probably make an effort to go there because, hey, it's the Finnish Tank Museum. And as for the PC, it's more or less running okay. I honestly I probably should. I've had a couple of problems still with freezing. Probably would be cured by a Windows reinstall. But honestly, I'm so lazy that I don't want to have the hassle of doing it all over again. Also, because my internet's so great, the amount of time it takes to re-download stuff is like, I still haven't re-downloaded all the things that I had before I did the last reinstall, which wasn't all that long ago, all things considered. So that's a major reason why I'm putting it off, because it takes so long to download things. Martin Fagerheim asks, if there was a zombie apocalypse, and what 5 tanks / weapons would I use to defend myself? Well, if you've got a tank, I mean, just a TOG, to be honest. It depends on the zombies, though. But I think a TOG has got plenty of living room. You could build like a fence around the top deck as well, so you could have like a shooting platform. The actual gun itself, okay, you'd mostly want HE shells. It's only a 17-pounder, but that'd be enough for zombies. That would blow them to smithereens. And you've got plenty of room for stores. You could even hitch a caravan on the back or something, and you could have a convoy of TOGs. You could have like a mobile TOG train that kind of roves around the countryside picking up survivors. And because it's a TOG, it's good for all those, you know, the bumpy terrain and trenches, if there was trenches. I don't think there would be trenches. Zombies don't dig trenches. But yeah, I'd go with the TOG, just because it's roomy, and you could have options with a TOG, I think. The mouse would be a bit more difficult because it's such a heavy tank, and in Scotland especially, there's so many places it would just sink into the ground. We do have some, you know, slightly boggy areas, 1 or 2. Right, Igor, I'm going to take a drink and consider this one. Igor Ledecki asks, what do I think is the rubbishest? I'm slightly editing that line there. The rubbishest line in World of Tanks and why? Well, there are a couple that have a bit of a reputation. The second Russian tank destroyer line, I think there are some not very well regarded machines on that. That has some, because a lot of the lines there's at least kind of like one good machine, but I think on that one it's like the grind. It really is all about getting to the tier 10, and the ones before the tier 10 are not terribly good. I can't think of another line, honestly, out of all the ones I've played, where I've just absolutely hated the experience, like, from start to finish. I haven't played that many lines from start to finish, to be honest. But, no, I guess that would be my answer, that the second Russian TD line. Is it Object 263 it ends in? I can't remember. Anyway, I'll get Caption guy on now. I'll just leave it up to Caption guy. I'll be lazy. Kern Bezimer asks, would Caption guys work? Would he work together with Jingles in his gnomish world domination plans? And he says, sorry for my bad English. I am Dutch. If there's ever any channel on YouTube where you don't need to apologise for having bad English. I honestly, I would not be surprised if Caption Guy was not already, if he wasn't actively working with Jingles on his, plan for world domination. He is setting himself up for a plan high in the hierarchy. He's just too much of a schemer. He's too much of a yeah, can you honestly see Caption Guy down in the salt mines with the rest of us? I don't think it's going to happen. Although, because he is who he is, it's only he might do it. He might manage it, and then you just know he's going to say something inopportune, or he's going to start plotting or scheming against the mighty Jingles himself, and that's going to be his downfall. So yeah, I think he'll maybe succeed at first, but then he will sow the seeds of his own destruction because he can't help it, because he's Caption Guy. PPJ, whose name I had so much trouble with last time, asks, other than playing video games, what exactly do I do on my island? Does counting sheep count as a pastime? No, I mean, we've got a few things to do around here. I know most people think, oh, rural Scotland, there's like sheep and a couple of rocks, and then maybe they have visions of Father Ted. He's not quite that bad, but yeah, no, we've got a fair few things in Stornoway. The local arts centre's a bit of a hub. It's where the cinema is. There's all the shops and stuff. There's various community centres. There's actually, around the islands as a whole, there's a surprising number of places to actually eat out. We've got some very good restaurants and cafes and things like that. There's even, and this is again not in Stornoway itself, but because we have a lot of artistic types on the island, we lots of little like galleries and studios, and there's a pottery in Borv, and there's all these kind of little crafty places, and there's actually quite a lot to do here if you ever come and visit. And you can basically go on a little tour of all the little galleries, and it'll take you all over the islands basically. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff to do here, surprisingly. We also have the Callanish standing stones, which are standing stones, which unlike Stonehenge you can actually I think unlike Stonehenge, I'm not sure, but you can walk up to them, and it's not quite as magnificent as Stonehenge, but it's still pretty neat. It's been there a long time, thousands of years. So yeah, there's that. Urban Tarzan actually has a couple of questions, but I'm going to choose to answer two of them, because normally I'd just choose one, but there's actually two good ones here. The first one he asks is, what was my knowledge of tanks before World of Tanks? Not very much, to be honest. Maybe I had heard of some of the more famous machines, but if you'd asked me to pick out a Tiger tank from a lineup, I probably wouldn't have been able to, or a Sherman for that matter. There's not many games I played where there were actually tanks in them. Battlefield 1943 on the PlayStation 3 has got a Sherman, and it's also got a Japanese tank, and I don't even know what the Japanese tank is, to be honest. It's probably in World of Tanks, and I probably just don't recognise it. But it's because it's so totally arcadey. It was like when I first started playing that, because that came out a while ago now. I was like, oh look, tanks! I have no idea what they are, but tanks! And I didn't recognise them at all. And although, of course, these days I'll look at it and think, oh yeah, of course that's a Sherman, duh. But no, otherwise I had very little knowledge. And to be fair, outside of the scope of World of Tanks, I've picked up some tidbits from World of Tanks. The kind of in-game information. I've gone and looked up stuff on Wikipedia. I've maybe read a bit elsewhere. Obviously, I've read all the various articles on FTR, which contain some interesting information. But I do not like I've gone out and bought myself a shelf full of tank books or anything like that. So my knowledge is probably still fairly limited. I play the game for the game itself more than because I have an interest in tanks as a subject, and I think a lot of people come to World of Tanks because they do have that interest. So it's kind of caters for the gamers and the enthusiasts in that way. I think World of Tanks, which is quite a nice, how many games kind of do that, have that kind of subject where actually a non-gamer will look at that game and go, oh, actually that looks worth trying. So yeah. He also asks, this is Urban Tarzan again. This is a bit of a long-winded question, but basically, is there a film or a book or a video game or something that I think everyone should know about or read or something like that very few people seem to have? And would I like to share this with everybody? I'm going to pick out a film, and we're actually going to do a quick jump cut here because I'm going to go and grab the box of the film, so I'll be right back. So here we go. This is the thing I think everybody should see at some point. This is possibly my favourite film ever, and some of you in the UK may have heard or seen this at some point in your lives. If you're outside of the UK, possibly not. But this is a film. How do I start to describe this? It's just wonderful. I like the Ealing comedies as a whole. There are a lot of very good films. This was actually directed by Alexander McKendrick, who also directed Whiskey Galore, and it's just fabulous. Alec Guinness, Joe Greenwood, Joe Greenwood, and it's. I know I'm a massive geek. I'm a massive sci-fi fan. I'm a massive nerd, but this beats all of the science fiction films that I really love. It's just superb. It's just it's a comedy film, but it's also a satire, and I think it's just I don't know how to start describing this. It's just too wonderful to me, anyway. And as an interesting tidbit, there, as someone who listens to a lot of old radio comedy as well, the sound effect of the contraption from the man in the white suit is actually, it turns up in all sorts of weird places. It actually turns up in the Goon Show several times. It also turns up in, what was it? There was an American sci-fi radio series, X-1. It turns up in that a couple of times as well. So this was a sound effect that made it all around the airwaves in the 60s and 50s even. So yeah, I think everybody should see The Man in the White Suit, and it's not going to be to everyone's taste, but it's one of my favourite films. And it's just, Alec Guinness was famously he regretted appearing in Star Wars because he's this fantastic actor, and then he did Star Wars, and everyone was like, oh my god, you're that guy from Star Wars, and he was like, oh, why did I do it? Why? If you've never seen Alec Guinness in anything outside of Star Wars, you should see him in this, and you should see him in The Bridge Over the River Kwai, and you will begin to appreciate quite how fantastic an actor he is, because two more different films you cannot conceive of, but he is just so superb in both of them. So yeah, there's that. You should definitely see that, though. The Man in the White Suit, it is amazing, and everybody should watch it, and it's my favourite film, so there you go. There's an answer to that question. I couldn't not answer that question because everybody has to see that film. And once I'm in charge of my own, once I'm Minister of Re-Education under Jingles, which will, again I'll probably be the author of my own downfall as much as Caption Guy is. But that will be number one on the list of just make everyone watch that because I can. Anyway, on to the next question. Now this is from, I'm going to probably, I think that's Corsa the Dark. Yes, it will be Corsa the Dark. Since, this is a good one. Since you have me now addicted to reading the Stornoway Gazette. Wrong side. Stornoway Gazette. Yeah. So OP. It's the best local newspaper in the world, I'm telling you guys. I have to know, were you the one that broke the small frosted bathroom window on March 16th? And is that really a major crime there? Inquiry minds I can't even speak now. Inquiry minds in Detroit, Michigan want to know. No comment. My lawyer has advised me that I should remain silent on this matter. Honestly, I mean, the Isles are a pretty safe place to live. Most of the stuff that happens here is on the order of, smashed windows, vandalism, tyres being slashed. One of the only two times, we have had On to quite a serious subject here, actually. We have had a murder here, and that was, God, was that Christmas 2012? And that was actually literally just down the road from me. And yeah, this was like the first time it happened on the Isles for 30 plus years, kind of thing. So really big deal here. That, and it was a young lad as well. It was actually pretty horrible, all things considered. That was one occasion when the police came to my door and canvassing the local area to see if anyone had seen anything. The other occasion I've had the police come to my door was when somebody slashed the tyres, all four tyres, of a car that was a little ways down the road outside. And it turns out I had actually heard it, but I thought it was the wind blowing somebody's wheelie bins over, because it was these kind of popping noises. No, it turned out it was somebody having their tyre slashed, and that's my only dealings with the police. So crime here is kind of, outside of that very, very exceptional and quite horrible murder. It's not very common here. It most of the stuff the police deal with here, it's either offences related to drinking or offences related to driving, and occasionally offences related to drugs as well, because you get that everywhere. So yeah, it's sheep theft, not so much a thing these days, but cattle raiding. Go read up on the history of cattle raiding. It was like serious business. Just people died. Cattle raiding was a big thing. Back in the day. We're talking, hundreds of years rather than decades. We're not talking quite that recently. Anyway, on to the next question, because we're getting on for time a bit here. KHR Rocks says, what gave me the idea of having Caption Guy in my videos? I didn't have the idea, goddammit. He just turned up one day, he was there, and then I've been unable to get rid of him ever since. I'm going to find out how he does it one of these days. I'm going to find him, and I'm going to get him, and I'm going to smack him on the nose with a rolled up, stored away Gazette and say, bad boy, bad, because what works for dogs works for people as well, right? I just slightly wandered into strange territory here. I don't know. Anyway, but yeah, to give a slightly serious answer, I started off with captions to correct myself, and then somehow Caption Guy started sneaking his captions in as well, and yeah, I don't know how he did it, but I'll find out. I'll find out one of these days. Tom asks, have I ever been called or called someone a schmuck? I don't think so. No, that's a fairly random question. No. There you go. I can call you a schmuck if you like. Tom, you're a schmuck. There we go. Now the answer's yes. Black Shadow 236 says, would I rather drive a completely stock Churchill gun carrier with a 50% crew and no equipment until I get a Pools medal, or would I rather play 1,000 games of only artillery? It's got to be the artillery, hasn't it? Because it's only 1,000 games, whereas the Churchill gun carrier, stock with no equipment and 50% crew, until a Pools medal. I mean, you're going to be waiting until hell freezes over, aren't you? So, no, it does have to be artillery, and at which point I probably would be declared certifiably insane. Because half the time when I'm playing artillery, my expression is something along the lines of... Because RNG is such a thing with artillery. It's just like, yeah... Artillery is not something I play for fun, apart from Bert, because Bert is special. Second to last question, we're nearly there. HSM English asks, why don't I use XVM? I've touched on this in several of the videos. I don't think it's a matter of fair or unfair exactly, although if you're being focused, particularly by artillery players who are clearly using XVM and see that you're the best player on your team and they decided to focus on you regardless of the tank that you're in, that can be incredibly irritating. Now, why I don't use it myself is I think it gives you if you're in a team of not very good players, I think it gives you a too prejudicial this was a word I struggled with as well in that other video. Prejudicial view of it makes you too pessimistic before the game has even begun, basically. And I would rather fight each game on its own merits than look at an XVM, you know, the stat list and think, oh, well, there's no point fighting that then. I don't know. Maybe sometimes this makes the game more frustrating for me than it would be otherwise, than if I was just like going to be accepting of horrible fate. I don't know. And the interesting thing to me is when I play with people who do use XVM, and it's like the tone of voice they use when they go, oh, it's a 42%er or it's a 36%er, or it's like, yeah, and that's actually infectious because it's like, oh, okay, well, we can predict how this is going to go, and usually it does end badly, but just occasionally you buck the odds. And is it more satisfying to know that you bucked the odds? I don't know. But I still wouldn't use it because I think it would just affect my gameplay too much. Even just, like I said, playing with people that use it and listening to what they're saying, and you know, even if they don't use the win chance thing and they go, oh, it's a sea of red, it affects your game. It does, and I think it's hard to pretend that it doesn't. Anyway, on to the next question, and the last question, and this is from Terry Balfour, who has had several questions answered in the past, but I think he's been following the channel for a while. He says, two dogs are walking down the street, such as dogs are wont to do. One dog says, looks like it's gonna rain, to which the other dog says, bloody hell, a talking dog. So that's not bad. With this bad joke in mind, what are A, your favourite comedians, and B, your favourite joke? Favourite comedians. I could be here all day, really, couldn't I? You know, I mentioned before, music isn't a thing in my life that it is for some people. Comedy is. To some people, they have like that. They have bands, tracks, whatever, or composers, and it's like the particular kind of, you know, that speaks to something in them that's like, yeah, that adds an extra layer to their life. But for me, that is comedy, and for me, especially that kind of absurdist, surreal comedy. So I could be here with a list all day, but things, I mean, particularly things like Monty Python, The Goon Show has a massive influence, but I also like a lot of like double acts. So we're talking the likes of Eric and Ernie, again, massive fans of them, or the two Ronnies, and Ronnie Barker especially he was an amazing comedian. He was very well known for real precision comedy. Like, he practiced over and over. Everything had to be just perfect, and it's just watching him at work when he's doing something like the mispronunciation sketch, or he did a radio series called Lines from My Grandfather's Forehead, which was mostly him. It was him, Pauline Yates, and somebody else, and they did all these kind of various sketches, and I think some of them, the majority were probably written by Ronnie Barker himself. And there's just so much wonderful stuff in his whole body of work. But he did. There was a recitation of, it was like Hamlet in 4 minutes, and it's the most wonderful thing. I'll have to see if I can find that. I had a copy on my channel, and then when I started doing all the YouTube stuff, I thought, okay, that's BBC. I might as well. I'll have to take that off. But somebody else on some other channel might have it, and if not, you can go look it up, and you can find the text of it on the internet, and it is absolutely fantastic. But that kind of satire, parody, the more absurd the better, in a way, because life is inherently absurd, and I think comedy is, one of the best ways we have of appreciating this absurdity, of really truly apprehending the complete and utter, the everyday life is just it's just filled with absurdity. It's just ridiculous. Everything is ludicrous. It just is. And comedy is, I think it's the best way we have of kind of exploring this, understanding it, appreciating it. Because if you went through life and were just super serious all the time, I can't even begin to imagine that. I really can't. Even the Romans knew this. The Romans had, and I love this about the Romans, they had funeral clowns. They had people whose job it was to, basically, they would turn up at, well, not turn up, they were paid. They were hired to come along to funerals and basically remind people that while everyone else was kind of like, oh, you know, oh, he's dead, and we have to be, you know, very kind of solemn and you know, he had faults, but we won't talk about those. We'll just praise his good side. The clown was there to remind people that no, he had his faults, sometimes quite significant faults, and oh boy, was this guy there to remind you of them. I've just had a thought actually. Maybe Caption guy in a previous life was a Roman funereal clown. Who knows? But also, you know, the Romans invented satire. There's, you know, the Greeks never really got the hang of comedy. I feel, uh, although you know they certainly were absurd in their own way. But no, I mean it's got to be the Romans in that particular regard, hasn't it? And another thing I like about the Romans is they well, I can't remember if this is true or not, or just a kind of legend, but the guy that would sit in the chariot, the slave whose job it was to sit in the chariot, while the generals and the senators were having their triumphs, who would sit and whisper in the guy's ear, you know, remember, you two are mortal. So, again, Caption guy, you know, I think he's more than a little Roman in his own way. So anyway, yeah, Favorite jokes is very difficult. I don't think I can answer that one. But favorite comedians, I've mentioned Ronnie Barker. I've mentioned Eric and Ernie. Morecambe and Wise. Spike Milligan, massive influence. I just love Spike Milligan. Peter Sellers is really. I know people have mixed reactions to Peter Sellers. He had an interesting personal life, to say the least. But I just, as a performer, he's wonderful. I'm trying to think who else. There's just so many I could choose from, you know. I don't go for stand-up that much, although, you know, I don't know. People being in front of live audiences that weren't necessarily stand-up. I mean, like Pete and Dud, for instance. And there's that kind of absurdist element in it again. I don't know. This is the question that I wanted to do a whole episode on, and then I thought, no, there's not enough to talk about. But now I've started, I'm kind of struggling to bring it to a conclusion, really. But yeah, comedy is. I'll just finish off by saying, and comedy is a big thing in my life, and maybe at some point I will I will scrape together enough thoughts that I can do a whole video on comedy, because it's just it's one of the things that makes us special, really, isn't it? The fact that we can laugh at ourselves, and do frequently. You wouldn't see I was going to say you wouldn't see cats laughing at themselves, but maybe they do. I don't know. They're very mysterious like that. So I think we'll wrap this Q&D up here, number 4. As per last time, as per always, if you have a question for the next one, put it underneath in the comments and say question, so it's nice and clear, because I've had this in previous videos. People have put comments and it's not really clear if it's a question for the next video or not, so make sure it is a big question in front of it, and then I'll know it's for the next video. You can hit the like button, you can leave any other comments you have below, you can check out my other videos, you can subscribe to my channel, and of course, as always, stay tuned for more.